Dr. Kale Voss pressed his pale blue hands against the viewing window of the research ship Serenity's crown. The stars looked peaceful out there, tiny points of light scattered across the endless black of space. He had been studying them for 3 years now, mapping new systems and looking for signs of life. The Veltari people were curious by nature, always wanting to learn more about the galaxy around them. Dr. Voss were getting some strange readings from the sensor array, called out his assistant, a young Veltari named Nira. She worked at the communications station, her long fingers dancing across the controls with practiced ease. The Veltari were known throughout the galaxy as peaceful explorers and scientists. They had no enemies, no weapons on their ships except for basic defense systems. Kale walked over to her station, his soft footsteps barely making a sound on the metal floor. The Serenity's crown was a beautiful ship, built for comfort and research rather than speed or fighting. Its white hull gleamed in the starlight, and its large sensor arrays could detect the smallest changes in space around them. "What kind of readings?" Kyle asked, looking at the screens that showed waves of energy moving through space nearby. "I'm not sure," Nira said, her voice worried. "They're coming from the edge of the system, moving fast, very fast." Kale felt a cold feeling in his stomach. In all his years of space travel, fast-moving objects usually meant trouble. He was about to tell Nira to send a message to the nearest Confederation base when alarms began blaring throughout. "The ship." Captain Lin's voice came over the speakers, calm but urgent. "All crew to emergency stations. We have unknown ships approaching our position. They are not responding to our greeting messages." Through the viewing window, Kale could see them now. 3 massive ships, dark and ugly, with sharp edges and glowing red lights. They looked nothing like the smooth, curved ships that peaceful species built. These ships were made for war. "Krex raiders," whispered Nira, her face turning even paler than usual. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the Krex. They were one of the few truly violent species left in civilized space. They attacked ships, stole everything valuable, and took prisoners to sell as slaves. Most peaceful species just tried to stay away from the areas where Krex ships traveled. The largest Krex ship fired a weapon that looked like a bolt of red lightning. It hit the Serenity's crown with tremendous force, making the whole ship shake and spin. Lights flickered on and off, and Kyle heard the sound of metal breaking somewhere deep in the ship. "Shields are down to 60%, Captain Lin announced over the speakers. Her voice was still calm, but Kyle could hear the fear underneath. "All non-essential crew to the emergency pods." Kale grabbed Nira's arm. "We need to get to the escape pods," he said, but she shook her head. "I have to send a distress signal first," she said, her fingers flying over the controls. "If we don't call for help, no one will know what happened to us." Another blast hit. The ship, this one even stronger. The lights went out completely for a moment, and when they came back on, sparks were flying from several control panels. The ship was dying around them. "There," Nira said, hitting one final button. "I've sent our location and situation to all allied ships in the area. Maybe someone will come help us." But Kyle knew the truth. They were exploring in a distant part of space, far from the normal shipping lanes. The nearest Confederation ship was probably days away, and they didn't have days. They probably didn't even have hours. The third blast came from a different direction, and Kale realized that all 3 Krex ships were now surrounding them. The Serenity's crown was trapped. Through the window, he could see smaller ships launching from the Krex vessels. Boarding craft coming to take prisoners and steal everything they could carry. "Emergency pods are launching," came Captain Lin's voice, but it was breaking up now as the ship's communication system failed. "Good luck to everyone." Kale and Nira ran through the corridors of the ship, heading for the nearest escape pod bay. The corridors were filled with smoke and the sound of breaking metal. Other crew members were running too, all heading for the same place. Most of them were scientists like Kale, people who had never been in a fight in their entire lives. They reached the pod bay just as the first Krex boarding party broke through the ship's outer hull. Kale could hear their harsh voices and the heavy sound of their boots on metal. The Krex were bigger and stronger than Veltari, and they loved violence, in a way that peaceful species could barely understand. "The pods are damaged," said Fenn, the ship's engineer, pointing at the escape pod doors. They were bent and twisted from the explosions. We can't launch them. Kyle felt his heart sink. They were trapped on a dying ship with violent aliens coming to capture them. He looked around at his fellow crew members. There were 12 of them left, all scientists and researchers, none of them fighters. We have to hide, Nira said. Maybe they won't find us all. But Kyle knew that was just hope talking. The Kreks were expert hunters. They would search every corner of the ship until they found everyone. And then the real nightmare would begin. Meanwhile, very far away in a part of space that the Veltari had never explored, something unexpected was happening. The distress signal that Nira had sent was bouncing off planets and moons, traveling through space at the speed of light. It was looking for any friendly ship that might be able to help. The signal reached a small moon, orbiting a yellow star. On that moon was a base that the Veltari didn't know existed. It belonged to a species that wasn't in any of their computer files, a species that had only recently begun to explore the stars. At Luna Base 7, communications specialist Lee Dae-ho was having a quiet night shift. He was monitoring the deep space communication arrays, listening for any interesting signals from the unknown parts of space around them. Most nights, he heard nothing but the background noise of the universe. But tonight was different. His equipment picked up something that made him sit up straight in his chair. It was definitely a signal from an intelligent source, but the language was completely unknown. His translation computers were trying to figure it out, but they were having trouble. What came through clearly, though, was the emotional tone of the message. Even without understanding the words, Lee Dae-ho could tell that someone was in terrible trouble and asking for help. He reached for his communication device and called his commanding officer. "Captain Park, you need to hear this," he said. "Captain." Park Hyun-woo arrived at the communication station within minutes. He was a strong man with gray in his hair and scars on his hands from old battles. He had fought in many wars back on Earth and knew the sound of desperation when he heard it. "Play it again," he said, and Lee Dae-ho replayed the alien signal. The translation computer was getting better at understanding the message now. Words were starting to appear on the screen. "Help, under attack, coordinates, please respond, Captain." Park looked at the star map that showed where the signal was coming from. It was far away, but not too far for their ships to reach. "Sir," said Lee Dae-ho, "first contact protocols say we're not supposed to get involved in alien conflicts." Captain Park was quiet for a long moment, listening to the signal again. Somewhere out there, people were dying while asking for help. He had spent his whole life protecting people, first on Earth and now among the stars. "Get the Incheon's Pride ready for departure," he said finally, "and tell the Busan's Fury and Soul's Hammer to prepare for escort duty." "Sir, are you sure about this?" Lee Dae-ho asked. Captain Park looked at him with serious eyes. "Someone is calling for help and we're the only ones who can answer. That's enough for me." The 3 human ships dropped out of hyperspace with a flash of blue light. Captain Park Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of the Incheon's Pride, looking at the scene in front of them. It was worse than he had expected. The alien research ship was barely holding together. Its white hull was cracked and burning in several places. Pieces of metal were floating around it like a cloud of debris. 3 massive enemy ships surrounded it like wolves around a wounded deer. "Captain, I'm reading life signs on that ship," said Science Officer Lee Hae-jin, studying her scanner displays. "Not many, but some are still alive." "What about those other ships?" Captain Park asked. Chief Tactical Officer Kim Min-seo was already analyzing the enemy vessels. They were huge, much bigger than the human ships, with thick armor and many weapons. "They're heavily armed, sir. Each one has more firepower than all 3 of our ships combined." Captain Park nodded. He had expected this. Humanity was still new to space travel, and their ships were small compared to what older civilizations could build. But size wasn't everything. He had learned that lesson many times in the wars back on Earth. "What are they doing to that research ship?" he asked. "It looks like they're taking prisoners, sir," said Kim Min-seo. "Small ships are going back and forth between the vessels. They're probably stealing everything valuable too. Through the main viewing screen, Captain Park could see the brutal efficiency of the attack. The enemy ships were not trying to destroy the research vessel quickly. They were taking their time, enjoying the process. This was not just about resources or territory. These aliens liked causing pain. "Sir, we should call for backup," suggested First Officer Nam Taemin. 3 ships against 3 might seem fair, but those ships are much bigger than ours. Captain Park was quiet for a moment, watching as another small craft left the research ship carrying what were probably prisoners. Every second they waited, more innocent people were suffering. "No time for backup," he said finally. "Kim Min-seo, what can you tell me about their tactics?" The tactical officer studied the enemy ships more carefully. "They're not being very careful, sir. They think they're safe. Their weapons are pointed toward the research ship, not watching for other threats. And they're staying in a simple triangle formation." Captain Park smiled grimly. He had seen this kind of overconfidence before. When someone thought they were completely in control, they stopped paying attention to danger. "These pirates just made the biggest mistake of their lives," he said. "All ships, this is Captain Park. We're going in hard and fast. Target their weapon systems first, engines second. Let's show them what happens when they pick on innocent people." The response came immediately from the other 2 ships. Captain Yu from the Busan's Fury and Captain Shin from the Seoul's Hammer both confirmed they were ready. These were good officers, people Park had fought beside before. They trusted each other completely. "Kim Min-seo, begin the attack," Captain Park ordered. The Incheon's Pride shot forward like a bullet, its engines pushing it to maximum speed. The other 2 human ships followed, spreading out to attack from different angles. This was a tactic they had practiced many times in Earth's asteroid fields. The first enemy ship didn't even see them coming until the human weapons began firing. Streams of metal projectiles from the railguns hit the alien ship's weapon batteries, destroying them in bright explosions. The aliens had energy shields, but they were designed to stop energy weapons, not solid metal traveling at incredible speeds. "Direct hit on target 1, reported Weapons Officer Han Sora. "Their main guns are offline." The second enemy ship was turning to face them now, but it was too slow. Lieutenant Commander Choi Jin-ho launched his fighter squadron from the Seoul's Hammer, and the small, fast human craft swarmed around the big alien ship like angry bees. "Their point defense systems can't track our fighters," Choi Jin-ho reported over the radio. "They're too big and slow, we're hitting them with everything we've got." The third enemy ship was trying to run away, but Captain Yu had positioned the Busan's Fury perfectly to block its escape route. The alien captain was learning that running from humans was much harder than running from the peaceful species they usually attacked. "Captain, the research ship is hailing us," said communications specialist Lee Dae-ho. "The translation system is working now. They're thanking us for the rescue." "Tell them to hang on," Captain Park said. "We're not done yet." The battle was going better than he had hoped. The enemy ships were powerful, but they were built for intimidating peaceful traders, not fighting a real military force. Their weapons were designed to destroy helpless targets, not to hit small, fast ships that moved in unpredictable patterns. The first enemy ship was trying to retreat now, its weapons destroyed and its hull badly damaged. But Captain Shin was ready for this. The Seoul's Hammer fired a spread of missiles that hit the alien ship's engines, leaving it dead in space. "Target 1 is disabled," reported Captain Shin. "Should we finish it off?" Captain Park thought about it. These aliens were pirates and slavers, people who caused nothing but pain wherever they went. It would be easy to destroy them completely. But that wasn't the human way. At least not anymore. "Negative," he said. "Disable their weapons and communications, then leave them. They can think about what they've done while they wait for rescue." The second enemy ship was in worse shape. Choi Jin-ho's fighters had torn apart its hull in dozens of places. Fires were burning inside it, and escape pods were launching as the crew abandoned ship. "Should we rescue the survivors?" asked Nam Tae-min. "Yes," Captain Park said without hesitation. "Take them prisoner, but treat them well. We're not like them." The third enemy ship had given up trying to fight. It was sending surrender signals and begging for mercy in a dozen different languages. Captain Yu was keeping his weapons aimed at it, but he wasn't firing. Captain Park, this is Captain Yu. The enemy is surrendering. What are your orders? Park looked at the tactical display. In less than 30 minutes, 3 human ships had defeated 3 much larger enemy vessels. They had done it without losing a single person, and with barely any damage to their own ships. Accept their surrender, he said. Board their ship and secure any prisoners they've taken, and get medical teams over to that research ship immediately. As the human ships moved in to secure the area, Dr. Kyle Voss was experiencing something he had never imagined possible. He was alive, free, and watching his rescuers work with incredible efficiency. The humans who came aboard the Serenity's Crown were unlike any species he had ever met. They were shorter than most galactic species, but they moved with a confidence that was almost frightening. They wore armor that looked like it was built for serious fighting, and they carried weapons that seemed far too advanced for such a young species. But what surprised Voss the most was how gently they treated the wounded. The human doctor, Yang Yunji, worked on injured Veltari with the same care she would give to her own people. She didn't even hesitate before helping aliens she had never seen before. You're going to be fine, she told Voss in his own language, somehow speaking perfect Veltari. We've got good medical facilities on our ship. How do you speak our language? Voss asked, amazed. Our computers are pretty good at figuring out new languages, Yang Yunji said with a smile. Plus, we've been listening to your distress signal for a while now. As Voss was carried to the human medical bay, he looked back at the battle scene. The 3 enemy ships that had seemed so terrifying an hour ago were now helpless. Some were destroyed, others were captured, and one was limping away into space, and the humans had made it look easy. Who are you people? He whispered. Yang Yunji looked at him with kind eyes. We're from Earth, she said, and we don't like bullies. Dr. Kale Voss lay in the medical bay of the human ship staring at the ceiling. His injuries were healing much faster than they should have been, thanks to the amazing medical technology these humans possessed. But his mind was struggling to understand what he had witnessed. The medical bay was unlike anything he had seen before. It was clean and efficient, but also somehow warm and comfortable. The walls showed pictures of a blue and green planet with white clouds, and he could hear soft music playing in the background. How are you feeling today? Asked Dr. Yang Yunji as she checked his bandages. She had been taking care of him for 3 days now, and her kindness never seemed to fade. Better, thank you, Voss said. But I have so many questions. I imagine you do, Yang Yunji said with a gentle smile. Captain Park said he would come talk to you today, once you were feeling stronger. As if her words had summoned him, Captain Park Hyunwoo walked into the medical bay. Voss had seen him briefly after the rescue, but this was their first real conversation. The human captain looked tired but alert, like someone who carried heavy responsibilities. Dr. Voss, Captain Park said, pulling up a chair beside the bed. I hope you're recovering well. I wanted to talk to you about what happened and about what comes next. I need to thank you first, Voss said, struggling to sit up straighter. You saved all our lives, but I don't understand why you did it. Captain. Park looked confused. Why we did it? You were calling for help. People were in danger. What else would we do? The simple way he said it made Voss realize how different these humans were from other species. Most galactic civilizations would have called for diplomatic solutions, or filed reports with the proper authorities, or waited for official permission to act. But we're strangers, Voss said. You don't know us, and getting involved could have caused problems for your people. That doesn't matter, Captain Park said firmly. When someone calls for help, you answer. That's what decent people do. Over the next hour, Captain Park and his senior officers gathered around Voss's bed to ask questions and share information. First Officer Nam Tae-min wanted to know about galactic politics. Science Officer Lee Hee-jin was fascinated by Veltari technology. Chief Tactical Officer Kim Min-seo asked about other hostile species in the area. But the more they talked, the more worried Voss became. You said you're from a planet called Earth? He asked. That's right, Captain Park confirmed. It's about 40 light-years from here in what you probably call the Outer Rim. Voss felt cold fear creeping into his stomach. The Outer Rim was where the galaxy kept its dangerous secrets. It was where the violent species lived, the ones too dangerous to be part of civilized society. Captain Park, Voss said carefully, can you tell me what kind of planet Earth is? What do you mean? Captain Park asked. I mean, what are the conditions there? How dangerous is it? Captain Park thought for a moment. Well, we have some dangerous weather sometimes. Hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes, and the wildlife can be pretty fierce. We have predators that can kill a human easily if you're not careful. Voss's worst fears were being confirmed. What about your history? Have your people ever fought wars? The humans all looked at each other, and Voss could see something dark pass between them. Yes, Captain Park said quietly. We've fought many wars. Too many. How many people have died in these wars? Voss asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. Millions, Namtaeman said. Maybe hundreds of millions over our entire history. Voss felt sick. According to galactic classification, these humans were definitely from a death world. Their planet was violent and dangerous, and their species had evolved to be warriors. They were exactly the kind of people that civilized species feared most. But that didn't make sense. These same people had risked their lives to save strangers. They were treating their prisoners well, even though those prisoners had been trying to kill them. Dr. Yang Yunji was one of the gentlest people Voss had ever met. Dr. Voss, Captain Park said, noticing his distress. What's wrong? In our classification system, Voss said slowly, your species would be called Deathworlders. That means you come from a planet so violent that it creates violent people. Most civilized species are afraid of Deathworlders. The humans looked shocked. Afraid of us? Li Haijin asked. But we're trying to help. I know, Voss said. That's what I don't understand. Everything I was taught says that Deathworlders are dangerous, that they can't control their violent instincts, that they destroy everything they touch. Well, Captain Park said with a dry smile, we certainly destroyed those Krex ships. But you also saved us, Voss pointed out. And you're treating your prisoners better than most civilized species treat their guests. Engineer Quan Dongwan, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. We captured some Krex equipment during the battle, he said. It was damaged, but I fixed it anyway. Seemed like the right thing to do. You fixed enemy equipment? Voss asked, amazed. It wasn't their fault it got broken, Quan Dongwan said with a shrug. And they might need it later. This was completely insane by galactic standards. Deathworlders were supposed to destroy enemy equipment, not repair it. They were supposed to be cruel to prisoners, not kind to them. Captain Park, Voss said, I need to warn you about something. The galaxy is not ready for your people. When they learn that humans are Deathworlders, there will be panic. Why? Captain Park asked. We're not planning to hurt anyone. It doesn't matter what you plan, Voss said sadly. The reputation of Deathworlders is so bad that most people will run away just from hearing the word. Over the following days, as the human ship traveled toward the nearest Confederation base, Voss spent time observing the crew. What he saw amazed him more each day. The humans worked together with an efficiency that seemed almost impossible. They argued sometimes, but they always found solutions. They took care of each other like family. When one of them was hurt during a training exercise, the others dropped everything to help. But what impressed Voss most was how they treated the Krex prisoners. The captured aliens were given good food, medical care, and comfortable quarters. Some of them had been badly injured during the battle, and the humans spent just as much effort healing them as they did healing their own people. Why do you treat them so well? Voss asked Yang Yunji one day. Because they're people, she said simply. Yes, they do bad things, but that doesn't mean we should do bad things to them. But they would kill you without a second thought. Probably, Yang Yunji agreed. But we're not them. We choose to be better. This idea fascinated Voss. In galactic civilization, most conflicts were solved through economic pressure or diplomatic negotiations. The idea that someone could be both capable of terrible violence and completely committed to moral behavior was alien to him. On the 5th day of their journey, long-range sensors detected a massive fleet approaching from behind them. Communications, Specialist Lee Dae-ho brought the news to Captain Park with a grim expression. "Captain, we've got big trouble coming," he said. "I count at least 50 ships, all Krex design. They're moving fast and heading right for us." Captain Park studied the sensor readings. The fleet was huge, much larger than anything they could fight directly. "It looks like someone wants revenge," he said calmly. Voss felt terror creeping through his body. 50 Krex ships could destroy entire star systems. Even the full Confederation Navy would struggle against such a force. "Captain, you have to run," he said urgently. "Take your people and get out of here. There's no shame in retreating from impossible odds." But Captain Park was already calling his senior officers to the bridge. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said when they were all assembled, "we have a problem, but we also have an opportunity." "An opportunity?" Nam Tae-min asked. "Think about it," Captain Park said, pointing at the tactical display. "These Krex are angry, probably not thinking clearly. They want to destroy us and recover their people. They're expecting us to either run away or fight them head-on. Both of those options seem pretty bad right now," Kim Min-seo pointed out. Captain Park smiled, and Voss recognized the expression. He had seen it before, right before the humans did something that seemed impossible. "Then we'll have to try option 3, Captain Park said. The War Council meeting in the Incheon's Pride's conference room was unlike anything Dr. Cale Voss had ever witnessed. The human officers sat around a table with him and the other Veltari survivors, treating them as equals rather than rescued civilians. "Let me understand this correctly," Voss said, looking at the tactical display that showed 50 Krex warships approaching. "You want to fight them?" "Not fight them," corrected Chief Strategist Oh Seung-ho. "Hunt them." Voss stared at him in confusion. Oh Seung-ho was a thin, quiet man who looked more like a teacher than a warrior, but when he talked about battle tactics his eyes became sharp and focused. "Dr. Voss," Oh Seung-ho continued, "you've told us how galactic warfare works. Large fleets meet in open space, they form battle lines, and they shoot at each other until one side gives up or gets destroyed. Is that correct?" "Yes," Voss nodded. "That's how civilized warfare is conducted." "Then these Krex are expecting civilized warfare," Oh Seung-ho said with a smile that wasn't entirely pleasant. "They're expecting us to either run away or form our own battle line and fight them properly." Intelligence Officer Bae Ji-won pulled up detailed scans of the approaching fleet. "Look at their formation," she said. "They're traveling in a tight group, all their ships close together. It's an impressive sight, meant to frighten their enemies. But it also makes them predictable," added communications specialist Jang Hai-young. "They're so focused on looking powerful that they're not thinking about defense." Captain Park stood up and walked to the large window that showed the space around them. In the distance, a gas giant hung in space like a giant orange and red marble. Around it were dozens of rocky moons and a thick belt of asteroids. "We're not going to fight 50 ships," he said quietly. "We're going to fight 3 or 4 ships at a time, over and over again until they don't want to fight anymore." Voss felt his heart racing. "Captain, with respect, that's impossible. You can't just hide from 50 warships." "Can't we?" "Captain," Park asked. "Oh Seung-ho, explain our strategy to Dr. Voss." The strategist activated a 3-dimensional map of the gas giant and its moons. "The Krex are thinking like conquerors," he said. "They want a glorious battle where they can show their strength, but we're not going to give them that battle." Red dots on the map showed where the human ships would position themselves. "We'll use the asteroid belt for cover," Oh Seung-ho explained. "Our ships are smaller and faster than theirs. We can hide among the rocks, hit a few enemy ships, then disappear before they can respond." That's guerrilla warfare," Voss said, recognizing the concept from his studies of primitive civilizations. "Exactly," Captain Park said. "The Krex have probably never faced an enemy that refuses to fight honorably. They won't know how to respond." Over the next 6 hours, the human fleet prepared for the most unusual battle in galactic history. The 3 ships split up, each taking position in different parts of the asteroid field. Fighter squadrons were prepared for hit-and-run attacks. Electronic warfare systems were programmed to confuse enemy sensors and communications. Voss watched from the bridge as the preparations continued. The humans worked with calm efficiency like people who had done this many times before. There was no panic, no fear, just focused determination. "Dr. Voss," Captain Park said, "you and your people should go to the emergency shelters. This could get dangerous." "No," Voss said firmly. "I want to watch. I need to document what happens here." When the Krex fleet finally arrived, they did exactly what Oh Sung-ho had predicted. They formed a massive battle line and demanded that the humans come out and fight like civilized beings. Instead, the humans answered with silence. The first attack came from Commander Shin Woo-jin, piloting a fighter squadron from the Soul's Hammer. His 12 small ships emerged from behind a large asteroid, fired a spread of missiles at the rear of the Krex formation, and disappeared back into the rocks before the enemy could respond. 2 Krex ships were damaged, their engines crippled. The rest of the fleet turned to pursue the fighters, but they found nothing but empty space and floating rocks. "This is cowardly behavior," the Krex fleet commander broadcast on all frequencies. "Come out and fight us properly." The humans' response was another attack, this time from the opposite direction. Captain Yu led the Busan's Fury on a lightning-fast strike against the Krex left flank, destroying 3 ships before vanishing behind a moon. Voss watched the tactical display in amazement. The Krex fleet was like a giant, dangerous animal being attacked by tiny, fast predators. Every time they turned to face one threat, another attack came from a different direction. "They're getting angry," observed Kim Min-seo, monitoring Krex communications. "Their commanders are arguing about what to do." "Good," Captain Park said. "Angry people make mistakes." The battle continued for 3 days. The humans never fought more than a few enemy ships at once, always choosing when and where to engage. They used the gravity of the gas giant to slingshot their ships to incredible speeds, appearing from impossible angles to strike and then disappear. Pilot Yoon Se-ra became legendary during those 3 days, leading fighter attacks that seemed to come from nowhere. Her squadron would hide in the shadow of asteroids, waiting for Krex ships to pass by, then strike like hunting birds before vanishing again. The Krex tried everything they could think of. They split their fleet into smaller groups, but then the Ikkyo humans would attack each group with their full force. They tried to corner the human ships against the planet, but the humans would use the asteroid belt like a maze, always finding new places to hide. Most devastating of all were Jang Hai-young's psychological warfare broadcasts. She had studied Krex culture and knew exactly what to say to make them angry and careless. "Mighty Krex warriors," her voice would say mockingly over their communications, "are you having trouble finding 3 little human ships? Maybe you should go back to attacking helpless traders. Fighting real warriors seems too hard for you." By the end of the 2nd day, the Krex had lost 15 ships and hadn't managed to seriously damage a single human vessel. Their neat formation was broken. Their commanders were fighting with each other and their crews were exhausted from constant alert status. "They're starting to retreat," reported Lee Dae-ho on the 3rd day. "Some of their ships are leaving the system." "Let them go," Captain Park said, "but make sure they take a message with them." The message was simple. "This is what happens when you attack innocent people. Humans are watching now. Choose your targets more carefully." By the end of the 3rd day, only 12 Krex ships remained, and they were running away as fast as their engines could carry them. The mighty fleet that had come seeking revenge was scattered across space, defeated by 3 ships and a handful of fighters. Voss sat in stunned silence, trying to process what he had witnessed. According to everything he knew about warfare, what the humans had just done should have been impossible. You couldn't defeat a fleet of 50 ships with only 3 ships. But they had done it anyway. "How?" was all he could manage to say. "Captain." Park sat down beside him, looking tired but satisfied. "Dr. Voss, you told me that galactic civilization has forgotten how to fight real wars. You've had peace for so long that you've forgotten that sometimes the best way to win is to refuse to fight the way your enemy expects. But the tactics you used, they're so ruthless?" Captain Park suggested. "Maybe, but also effective. And notice what we didn't do. We could have destroyed all 50 ships, but we chose not to. We let most of them escape so they could spread the word. What word? Voss asked. That humans protect the innocent, Captain Park said. And that attacking peaceful people is a very bad idea when humans are around. As the human fleet prepared to continue its journey to Confederation space, Voss realized that everything he thought he knew about Deathworlders was wrong. Yes, humans were incredibly dangerous when they chose to be, but they only chose to be dangerous to those who threatened the innocent. The galaxy was about to learn that there was a new kind of guardian among the stars. Confederation Space Station Harmony was the largest artificial structure that humans had ever seen. It was a gleaming city in space, home to millions of beings from dozens of different species. As the Ancient's Pride approached the station, Dr. Cale Voss felt both excitement and dread about what was going to happen next. "It's beautiful," said Science Officer Lee Hai-jin, staring at the massive structure through the bridge windows. "It's also probably full of people who are about to panic when they learn what we are," Captain Park Hyun-woo replied quietly. The station's traffic control had been unusually nervous when the human ships requested permission to dock. Word had already spread about the defeat of the Krex fleet. The story had grown in the telling, and now rumors claimed that a mysterious new species had destroyed 50 warships without losing a single fighter. As they docked, Voss could see crowds of aliens gathering at the viewing ports to get a look at the humans. Some looked curious, others seemed frightened. News reporters from across the galaxy were already arriving to cover what everyone was calling the most important first contact in galactic history. "Dr. Voss," Captain Park said, "you know these people better than we do. What should we expect?" Voss thought carefully before answering. "The Confederation Council will want to meet with you immediately. They'll be polite but cautious. They've never dealt with a Deathworld species before, especially one that's proven to be so militarily capable." The first meeting took place in a large conference room deep inside the station. Voss had never seen so many important people in one place. There was Chancellor Rain from the peaceful Veltari, Admiral Kess from the trade-focused Malari, and Speaker Vin from the diplomatic Eltari. Representatives from 20 different species sat around a circular table, all of them staring at the small group of humans. Captain Park had brought only a few officers with him. First Officer Nam Tai-min, Chief Tactical Officer Kim Min-seo, and Science Officer Lee Hee-jin. They looked small and almost fragile compared to some of the larger alien species, but Voss could see the quiet confidence in their posture. "Welcome to Confederation space," Chancellor Rain said formally. "We are grateful for your assistance in rescuing our research vessel and its crew." "We were happy to help," Captain Park replied simply. "Yes, well," Admiral Kess interrupted. "That assistance has created quite a situation. Our intelligence reports suggest that your species comes from what we classify as a death world. Is this correct?" The room became completely silent. Every alien in the room was staring at the humans, waiting for their answer. "If you mean that Earth is a dangerous planet where our people learn to fight in order to survive, then yes," Captain Park said calmly. "That's correct." Several of the aliens shifted nervously in their seats. Speaker Vin leaned forward with obvious concern. "Captain Park, you must understand our position. In the history of the galaxy, Deathworld species have always been problematic. They tend to be violent, unpredictable, and difficult to control." "With respect, Speaker Vin," said Lee Hai-jin, "you've never met a Deathworld species like us before." "How are you different?" Chancellor Rain asked. Kim Min-seo answered this time. "We choose when to use violence, and we choose who deserves it. We don't attack innocent people. We protect them." Admiral Kess looked skeptical. "But surely your violent nature makes it difficult to control your aggressive impulses." Captain Park was quiet for a long moment, and Voss could see him thinking carefully about his words. "Admiral, let me tell you about human nature," he said finally. "Yes, we are capable of terrible violence. Our history is full of wars and conflicts, but we learned something important from all that fighting. Violence should only be used to protect those who cannot protect themselves." "That's a nice sentiment," Admiral Kess said. "But how can we trust that you'll stick to it?" "Because," Captain Park said, standing up slowly, We just had the perfect opportunity to conquer this entire region of space, and instead we're here asking to be friends." The room was silent as the aliens absorbed this statement. It was true. The humans had demonstrated that they could defeat the largest fleets in the region. If they had wanted to become conquerors, nothing could have stopped them. "What do you want from us?" Speaker Vin asked. "Partnership," Nam Taemin said. "We want to learn from your advanced science and peaceful culture. In exchange, we can help protect you from species like the Kreks." "You would fight our battles for us?" Chancellor Rain asked, seeming surprised. "We would fight battles that need to be fought," Captain Park corrected. "Battles to protect innocent people from those who would harm them." The negotiations went on for 3 days. The Confederation Council was torn between their fear of Deathworlders and their desperate need for protection against increasingly bold raiders and slavers. The Kreks were not the only violent species in the galaxy, and they were all becoming more aggressive as they realized how defenseless most civilized worlds were. During these negotiations, Voss worked tirelessly as an advocate for the humans. He met with representatives from every member species, showing them recordings of human behavior during the rescue and battle. He told them about the gentle medical care he had received, about the humans' compassion for their prisoners, about their refusal to use unnecessary violence. "They are not what we expected Deathworlders to be," he argued in session after session. "They are warriors, yes, but they are warriors with honor and conscience." Ambassador Ko In-soo arrived from Earth on the second day of negotiations. He was an experienced diplomat who had handled many difficult situations back on Earth, but nothing had prepared him for galactic politics. "This is much more complicated than we expected," he admitted to Captain Park during a private meeting. "Half of them want us to leave immediately, and the other half want us to become their personal army." "What do they want us to do?" Captain Park asked. "They want guarantees that we'll only fight defensive wars, that we'll never attack peaceful species, and that we'll share our military technology with them." Captain Park thought about this. "The first two are easy. We have no interest in attacking peaceful people. But our military technology, that's harder. Some of it could be very dangerous in the wrong hands." The breakthrough came on the third day when news arrived that changed everything. A Kreks fleet had attacked a peaceful mining colony in the outer systems, enslaving the entire population. It was exactly the kind of atrocity that the Confederation had been powerless to prevent. "How many people?" Captain Park asked when he heard the news. "Nearly 50,000, Chancellor Rain said sadly. "Men, women, children, all taken as slaves." "Where? Are they being held?" Kim Min-seo asked immediately. "We don't know," Admiral Kess said. "The Kreks have many hidden bases. It could take months to find them, even if we had the military power to do anything about it." Captain Park stood up from the negotiation table. "With your permission, we'd like to go find them." The aliens all stared at him in surprise. "You would do that?" Speaker Vin asked, "even though we haven't reached an agreement yet?" 50,000. Innocent people are in slavery, Captain Park said simply. "That's not something we can ignore while we argue about politics." Within 6 hours, the human fleet was heading toward the outer systems with the blessing of the Confederation Council. They carried with them a small group of alien observers, including Voss, who wanted to document what happened next. The rescue mission took 2 weeks. Using techniques that amazed their alien observers, the humans tracked the Krek ships through hyperspace, located their hidden base, and launched a precision assault that freed all 50,000 prisoners without losing a single civilian life. When they returned to Harmony Station with the rescued colonists, the entire galaxy was watching. The story had spread to every world. Humans had risked their lives to save complete strangers, asking for nothing in return. The signing ceremony for YAO, the Terra Confederation Mutual Defense Pact, took place in the station's largest assembly hall. Representatives from hundreds of worlds attended, along with news reporters from every major galactic network. "Today marks the beginning of a new era," Chancellor Rain announced, as Captain Park and Ambassador Ko In-soo signed the historic document. "For the first time in galactic history, peaceful civilizations have guardians who fight not for conquest or profit, but for the simple principle that innocent people deserve to live in safety. As the ceremony concluded, Voss found himself thinking about the strange twist of fate that had brought them to this moment. An alien distress signal, meant for allies who were too far away to help, had instead reached the one species in the galaxy capable of actually doing something about it. "Dr. Voss," Captain Park said, approaching him after the ceremony, "I wanted to thank you for everything you've done. Without your advocacy, this agreement might never have happened." "I just told them the truth," Voss replied, "that humans are exactly what the galaxy needs right now." Looking out through the station's massive windows, Voss could see the first human patrol ships taking up positions throughout Confederation space. Their presence alone would be enough to deter most raiders. The era of helpless civilizations being preyed upon by violent species was coming to an end. But in the deepest reaches of space, other Deathworld species had taken notice of humanity's actions.